What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here, Speaking Lifestyle. Today is going to be really simple. We're going to talk about speaker contracts. So when you get a gig, well, before you get the gig, you're going to send the contract out. So what should go in the contract and all the details about your contract. So let's see who's hopping on real quick. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions now, because when we're done, we're going to be done for the day. So, and then we're going to start again tomorrow and next day and all that. But if you have any questions, make sure you ask some questions. Like I said, today is all about speaker contracts. And, I was going to actually talk about this in a couple days, but I figured since I sent a couple of contracts this morning and yesterday, let's just talk about contracts today. One of the things that I did years ago with contracts when I was trying to build up my business, I was thinking, all right, what should go in a contract, right? So I'm Googling different contracts and there's all these legal definitions, legal terms inside of the contracts. And I'm thinking to myself, my contract has to be this really long contract to protect myself as a speaker. If somebody screws me over, I got to protect myself. I got to sue them and then make sure it has all these legal terms to where if I go to court, then I got to make sure I'm good to go and all that, right? So I did that in the beginning. I would send the contract out, and then for some reason, it would take them a long time to give it back to me, if they gave it back at all. The reason is because when you make a contract really big, really long with all these legal terms, what happens is they look at it. And this is just a normal person working at the company. They look at the contract. They're like, okay, I got to send this to the lawyers now. So what they got to send it to people. These people got to look at it, read the terms and see if there's anything in there that you're trying to screw them over with. And now at that point, it's just going to take you longer to get your money. And so I realized that from the very beginning. So you don't want to make your contract all that difficult. Your contract needs to be pretty simple. Just, hey, here's the stuff, right? So it's really important that you don't do that in the beginning, or just do it ever. I think one of the reasons why I did it in the beginning is because I wanted to make it look like I was bigger than what I actually was. So what happens is when you're trying to make yourself look bigger than what you actually are, you tend to do a lot of dumb things. And so my dumb thing was I had this long contract, like, I don't know, it was 5 pages or whatever. It was pretty long. And it had all these legal terms that was thrown in there. And I just wanted to come across as, oh, this guy, he's a big time speaker and all that sort of stuff. I realized that was the stupidest thing to possibly do with a speaker contract, because I probably lost a lot of gigs by doing that. If you have a long speaker contract like that, if you make it complicated with all the legal terms, what's going to happen is they got to include other people in there. You're just going to the time it's going to take you to actually get the sale done, to get the close done, is just going to take a long time. And so that's why you don't want to have a really, really long contract, by the way. So just slap yourself if you have a really long contract, all right? So let's talk about what should actually go in your contract. What do you do and all that? And by the way, guys, remember, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions. And I do want to mention to all you Speak Pro members, right after this, I'm going to be doing another Facebook Live inside the Speak Pro Academy, inside our little group, by the way. So what should go in the contract? Well, if you signed up to the Speaking Lifestyle newsletter, you just go to speakinglifestyle.com, just sign up right there to the newsletter, you will get a copy of the contract. The contract is really, really simple. The contract, all it literally does, it just says, here's basically the name of the person in charge. Here's the organization. It gives out the details of the actual event and their organization. Like, here's the name, here's the phone number, here's the person's email address, here's the address of the organization. Let's see, what else is there? Here's how long the presentation is going to be. Here's a description of the presentation. Here's where the event's going to be. So all it really does, it just reminds you of the details of the event. That's all you're really doing inside the contract. Then after you list all the basic details, then it just says, here's essentially how much you're going to pay. So you're going to pay X amount. We need a 50% non-refundable deposit of this amount due by this date. The remainder will be handed to Benji, or whatever your name is. The remainder will be handed to Speaker X on the date of the event before he steps on a stage, right? So you get 100% of the money up front before you actually step on a stage. This is why you cannot get screwed over by doing it this way. Like, you absolutely can't. Even if somebody tries to screw you over, they literally can't. Like, literally they cannot, because you get a 50% deposit before you show up, like literally as soon as they sign the contract, you get a 50% deposit right then and there. Before you actually step on a stage, they give you the other 50%. And so you literally can't get screwed. And that's what it says inside the contract. Then after it says that, it just says little things like you can record this. You can use this recording for all your marketing materials. So it's like one little paragraph or really just 2-3 sentences on that. After that, it just says, here's what you'll need. So you just list what you need, right? In the beginning, I thought to myself, like, well, what about a contract writer, right? So this, once again, in the beginning, I was trying to be all complicated, trying to be like freaking Mariah Carey. I want some red gummy bears and all that, right? So I was trying to be complicated in the beginning by having a contract and then a contract writer. You need to understand you're not that big. You're not Mariah Carey. You don't need red gummy bears or anything like that. So you're not that big. And unfortunately, I thought I was Mariah Carey. I'm like, hey. So I'm like, I mean, she can't sing as good as me, but still, I'm like, all right, let me have this contract writer. I got to describe all this stuff. So I was trying to describe all the stuff that I needed. In reality, I didn't need a damn thing for the actual presentation. And so in the contract, I just included, here's what Benji needs, or here's the requirements, I don't know the exact wording of it, but it's like, here's what I need. All I need is actually a whiteboard because I do this thing with a big ass whiteboard. So I need a whiteboard. I need, a microphone. I need a clip-on mic, and I need a handheld mic, and I need a water bottle. And that's it. And just a desk or something, like a chair to put something on, right? That's all I literally need. I do not make it complicated. I'm not talking about a green room or none of that sort of stuff. So a contract is just really, really simple. And so, of course, after all that, I list the travel requirements as well. The travel requirements are pretty simple as well. Travel requirements is just you pay for flight, hotel, and ground transportation to and from the airport. I do not include meals on this thing. And the reason is because at first I included meals. Like, I mean, you hear about all these top-notch people. Hey, let's include meals. They pay for everything, right? But what happens with the meals is you essentially have to invoice them. So after you spend all the money on the meals, let's say you spent $136.26. You invoice them for that amount. Then they go through all their stuff. Then they give you the money. I was like, this is just stupid. I don't feel like invoicing them. I just got paid freaking 20 grand. Why am I going to invoice them for $100? I don't care about that. So I didn't really care about the meals. I just say flight, hotel, and ground transportation. With international events, it is always 100% of the time a business class or first class flight. I will not fly economy. I absolutely won't, because it just takes you. I'm not sitting for 10 hours in freaking economy. I'm just not doing it. So I tell them every single time, like, hey, it's got to be either business or first class. Usually they go with business. I'm like, God, cheapos. But still, it's always business or first class. And so that's literally all I put in the contract. The contract is really simple. Like I said, if you want to get it, just go to speakinglifestyle.com and sign up to the newsletter, and then it'll send you the email. If you already signed up, it probably won't send you the email again. So, yeah, you're screwed. No. If you already signed up, then let's see, what else can you do? You can go to, you can either sign up with a new email, or you can just check your previous emails, type in speaking opportunities. That's the headline, the subject line of the email. So do that, right? You got to understand that the purpose of your contract is not to sue anybody. That is not the purpose of your contract. When you sign your contract, you get them to sign it, all that sort of stuff. You're not going to sue anybody, not for no 10 grand or whatever. You're not suing anybody over that contract. Plus, they have better lawyers than your ass, so they're going to destroy your ass in court anyways. So you're not suing anybody over the contract. The contract, the purpose of it is literally just to remind you of the details of the event. It's like, all right, I'm going to present for 60 minutes. It's going to be at this location. Here's the company it's for. It's just reminding you of the details. You automatically know I'm going to film the damn thing. Like, you automatically know that. You know that they're going to pay for the flight, hotel. You just know things like that, right? So you're not suing anybody. There's almost no reason to really have the contract other than the fact that it just reminds you of the details of the event. That's all you're doing. Because remember, what you're doing with the contract is, as soon as you say it's going to cost $20,000 for a presentation, 10, 20, however much you charge. As soon as you say it's going to cost $20,000, here's the contract. Just need you to sign it. Once you sign it, we'll put you on the schedule. Bam. And then, oh, by the way, you need to send a 50% deposit. So that's what you do. They send the 50% deposit. You're good to go. You got the contract signed. I mean, you already have half the money before you step on a stage. Then when you actually arrive at the event, they will pay you the rest of the money right then and there. I've never come across anybody who says, I'm sorry, we didn't get the money. Can we actually pay you afterwards? I've never come across anybody who's done that. And the reason for that is also because before I actually arrive at the event, I tend to remind them. So if they didn't send 100% of the money, I always remind them, hey, you guys are going to be good to go. You have the 50%, the rest of the money, when I arrive, right? So I literally remind them. I'm not afraid to tell people you owe me money. Like, I'm absolutely not afraid. So I will send them an email like a few weeks before the event. I'll say, hey, we're still good to go, right? Question mark. By the way, you're going to have the other check for X amount, ready to go when I arrive, correct? That's literally it. That's all I say. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to sue anybody because once again, there's no reason, there's no way I won't get my money. Like, there's absolutely no way. It's not that I present and then they pay. It's they pay and then I present. That's literally how it is. And so just understand that. I do want to mention this with the contract. A lot of times what I'll do, or not a lot of times, every time, what I'll do is I'll ask them if they just want to pay the full fee up front. So I just say, hey, would it be easier for you guys to pay the full fee up front instead of just splitting it into half now and half later? I always ask that question 100% of the time because I realize it does make it easier for the event to actually give me the money. Think about this. You're working with a big company or whatever the company is. What happens is the person who contacts you isn't the person who's just writing the checks. Like right now, if you want to buy anything, you want to go on Amazon, buy a program, whatever it is, you can just sit down, you can write a check. You can write a check, you can go put in your credit card information, you can do that. But they can't because it's not their money they're spending. So what they have to do, they have to contact so-and-so. Then this person, maybe they got to contact so-and-so from accounting. Then this accounting person does their thing. They contact that person. They go back to that person. Finally, they give you your money. And then they're like, damn it, I don't want to do that again, right? So they're like, I got to do that again, right? And so that's what happened at times. And so what you do is you just say, if it'd be easier for you to just give 100% of the money up front, you guys can do that as well. And so that's really all you do at that point. I always ask them to send 100% of the money. I do not give a discount, by the way. I never give a discount for sending 100%. They owe an X amount of dollars. They owe $20,000 for the speaking engagement. I do not say just because you guys are giving me all the money up front, it's only going to be 18,000 or 15,000. I do not say that. I just say, if you guys want to give 100% of the money, the full 20 grand, go ahead. Like, that's literally all I do. There's no reason to give a discount. Like, absolutely no reason. Once again, you're not negotiating against yourself. This is one of the things that a lot of speakers tend to do. They just negotiate against themselves for no reason whatsoever. It's like, all right, it's going to be 20 grand. If you like to send 100% of the money, you can just send 18 grand or you can just send 15 grand, right? It's literally just makes zero sense. Do not negotiate against yourself ever. So, and by the way, guys, I want to remind you, if you have any questions, ask them now because when I'm done with this, we're done. And so I'm going to go through the questions. If there aren't any questions, we're going to be done for today. So after that, just remember 100%, ask for 100%. Here's essentially the steps in terms of sending the contract, right? So first, they come to you, you go to them, however you get the lead, right? You essentially ask questions about the event. You quote, remember, don't negotiate against yourself with the quote. You ask for the deposit after you quote the price. You ask for the deposit with the contract. And then you just say, do I send the contract to you or somebody else, right? So that's essentially the steps. It's like you ask questions about the event, you quote, you ask for the deposit, and then you say, do I send it to you or somebody else, right? So that's kind of what you're doing. There's a couple things that can happen at this point when you send the contract to them. So essentially, they can just say yes. They can be, all right, cool, bam, everything's good to go. They can either say, send it to me, or they can just say nothing. Like, they can just ghost your ass. Like, they just ignore your ass at that point. This is where you need to have follow-up templates in place. Remember how I keep saying you got to systematize everything. If something happens to you multiple times, like let's say you send a contract out and then one person doesn't respond. They don't respond, right? It's like, oh man, that sucks. Cool. All right. Well, not cool, but it sucks. And then you contact another event. Same thing happens eventually. It's going to happen eventually. You send the contract out. They don't respond to you. You're like, what the hell? You need to build systems. What do you do when people don't respond to you? So when you quote, people aren't going to respond to you sometimes. When you send a contract, people aren't going to respond to you sometimes. What do you do? And so, essentially, you just need to know how to respond to each one of those. When people say like, send it to me, let me see, what did I put here? Attach the contract, would it be easier? Oh, okay. Yeah. I said that already. So when people say send it to me, you just say, I attach the contract. Here's the wording. I said, I attached the contract. Would it be easier for you guys to send the full payment instead of splitting it up into two? Let me know if you would rather do that instead of two different payments. So that's what I do with the actual contract. That's like the literal wording of what I say when I send them the contract. If they ignore me, I send follow-up email number 1. For all you Speak Pro Academy members, go inside Speak Pro Academy, go to the email templates, and then you'll see the follow-ups for the contracts, right? So if they ignore me, I send a follow-up number 1. They ignore that, send follow-up number 2. They ignore that, I send follow-up number 3. Follow-up number 3, it almost always gets a response because the way it's worded. And the final follow-up, it's a statement. It's not really a question. It's like a statement. It's like, hey, son, because you're not responding to me, I'm going to assume we're done. So be gone. That's not what it says, but that's basically what it says. That's what it communicates. It's like, what? You ghosted me, mofo? I got way more people in than you. Shoot. I didn't want to do business with you anyways. Forget your $1 million. I don't want that. Shoot. And so your final follow-up is really a statement basically saying, hey, since I haven't heard from you, I'm going to assume it's a no-go. I'm going to give the date to somebody else. That's literally what your final follow-up is. But you have to understand that you need to put these follow-ups in place because people, when you send a contract, what will happen at times is they just won't respond to you. And so it may be for a couple reasons. Like I get it more than everybody else because of the speaker training thing, which is why I had to take a lot of my stuff underground because speakers, they'll come to me, act like some event. They'll just want to figure out the process, whatever. Even though I tell them what the process is, there's nothing to really figure out. For some reason, they still try to do it. I don't know why, but still they come to me. They're like, what do you charge? We'd like to hire Benji Bruce. And so ask them the questions and then they're like, okay, cool. And then send them the contract. And then, that's literally it. And it's actually really easy to tell when someone's just BSing you. And in those cases, we just don't follow up. So like yesterday, there was an event yesterday where we sent out a contract. And a lot of times with these contracts, if I know the event is a BS event, we make it very simple. We tell them to wire transfer the money instead of just doing like a PayPal or something like that. We tell them to wire transfer the money. So that's really what we do if we figure people are just BSing like it's another speaker. But that's a whole other story. So if people don't respond when you send the contract, you obviously follow up. It's really, really important that you don't do anything until you get paid. Like I can't stress this enough. The money isn't yours. The gig isn't yours until the money is in the bank. So don't do anything. Don't pay for a flight, hotel. Don't tell your friends about the gig. Don't go on social media. Hey guys, I booked a gig out in Atlanta. Don't do any of that stuff. I used to do that stuff. Like I remember when people would call me up, first person, I'd be like, Mom, I got another gig. Then all of a sudden a week goes by. Yeah, I haven't heard from them. Yeah. Well, I guess the gig's a no-go. And that's literally what's going to happen to you. So it's best to not even think that the gig is yours in any sort of way until you not only get the contract, but the money. It's not even the contract. The contract literally means nothing. Like when they sign it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that means something is when you actually get the money and the money is in your bank. That's the only time it means something. And so don't get all hyped up because you booked a gig, because they agreed to it, because they sent a contract. None of that. Don't get hyped up. Don't tell people. Just be like, okay, cool. Bam. Move on to the next one as if this didn't even happen. I'm telling you, because if you don't, you're going to get excited as all hell. Yes, I got a gig. I haven't heard from them in a week. It's been 2 weeks. What's happened? That's what's going to happen to you. And so don't go spending the money in your head. Don't be like, all right, I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to get this. Don't do that in your head because you will get disappointed. So, just understand that. I do want to point out that in the very beginning of your speaking career, you're doing things very differently than everybody else. In the beginning, you're in this mindset of, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like literally you have pretty much no rules. You do whatever it takes. So if people say, we would love to book you, but we can't send you a deposit. I'm sorry, we just can't. That's just how our business operates. We just can't send you a deposit. You gotta be like, all right, please, I'll do it. Please, let me do the gig, please. Like that's pretty much what you do in the beginning, right? So like I remember with college, like colleges, they rarely send you the money up front. And I remember college contacted me. They were like, hey, we want to book Benji Bruce. And so we went through the whole process. I'm like, need a 50% deposit. Like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. the way we work is that after you do it, we then send you the thing and then you get it within 30 to 60 days. I'm like, I ain't waiting no. But in the beginning, I didn't have that mindset, right? In the beginning, I'm just like, damn it, I need this gig. All right, fine, I'll do it. And so, I didn't say it like that. I was like, okay, that works. Yay. And in my mind, I'm like, please don't screw me. Please don't screw me. So that's what was happening inside of my brain, right? So in the beginning, you're operating very differently. But this is one of the reasons why I tell people you want to get to the point where you don't need the gigs anymore. Like you don't need it because maybe you have money in the bank. You have other gigs lined up. When you get to that point, you can start dictating things. So like right now, I absolutely won't do a single event unless I get money up front. Like absolutely won't. I literally won't talk to anyone on the phone. None of that stuff unless they give that deposit. Like just because I don't need a gig. Someone could literally say, we'll give you 40 grand for this gig. And I'll say 50% deposit. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I'll say, I'm sorry. Take care. That's literally where I'm at right now. But in the beginning, I would do anything and everything. They were like, all right, you got to talk to so-and-so on the phone. We need you to fly out here. You got to do a quick 10-minute presentation. We need you to do a couple cartwheels. I'm like, all right, cool. Is that it? Anything else? I'll do all that. All right. So that's how it works in the beginning. But eventually you just get to a point where you don't need to do any of that. Right. And so, right now what we do with the contracts is I have a Google document with the contract. And I essentially there's like one master document and I'll copy and paste this master document into another document and I'll put their actual name into the document. And so from there, I'll actually send them that document. I'll let them edit the document. So we'll fill out certain things and then I'll let them be able to edit the document if they want. And then from there, they could print it out, sign it and return it. Honestly, I don't even care if people don't sign it. Like I don't care if people sign it or not, as long as I get the deposit. That's all I really care about, to be honest. But at this point, we're doing Google Documents and then it's just easier in terms of sending it and all that sort of stuff. So that's what we do. Once they actually sign it, at that point, it's just a matter of putting it into the CRM. So they sign it. There's a part inside of your CRM that says like documents. It should say that inside of your CRM. So we just upload the document inside the CRM. Bam, good to go. The other thing that you can do, and we haven't done this yet, is you can actually give them access to the CRM to like just their portion of the CRM. Like if I put a lead as Benji Bruce lead inside the CRM, I can give this person access to that lead, just that one lead. And that one lead, it can have notes, it can have documents, all that sort of stuff, and they can click on it and all that. But I haven't done that just because I'm like, it's probably a little bit too complicated. Just sending them a Google document is a lot easier, right? Once again, I want to stress the importance of getting the money. Like, just get the money. That's the only time it actually really matters in terms of the gig it counts as a gig. You don't have the gig until the money is in the bank. That's literally the only time you have the gig. And then the final thing I want to mention here, don't actually agree to anything that you wouldn't feel good about. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting or if obviously you're established. What I mean by that is years ago, when I was just doing entertainment, I wasn't speaking at all. There was a haunted house. Like, every single October, there's all these haunted houses. There was a haunted house in Colorado Springs. And the guy, he saw me perform somewhere. He saw me perform and he was like, hey man, what do you think about coming to the haunted house? And then like how there's a huge line. There's always like a huge line with haunted houses. He's like, there's a huge line. Can you just like walk around and walk up to the people in line and entertain them while they're waiting? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Right. So he says, all right, we want you to do it for, he did like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That was when the haunted houses were. He wanted me to go on Fridays and Saturdays. And it was every week for about 6 weeks. And I was in Fort Collins at college at the time. Fort Collins was about 3.5, 4 hours away from the Springs, from where the haunted house was. And so at the time I was like, okay, all right, so I'm going to do presentations for several hours each night, Friday, Saturday, 6 weeks. Okay. I'm going to charge a gang load of money for this one. Oh, I'm going to charge a lot. The haunted house will make a gang load of money. All right. $1,200. And that's what I said to the guy. I was like, $1,200. I can do all of it for $1,200. And he was like, all right, cool. That works. And then I thought about it. I was like, wait, here's how much it's going to cost to drive to and from every single time. Like I thought about the whole thing. I didn't need a hotel because that's where I lived, like in the spring. So I just stayed at my mom's house. I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. $1,200 for 6 weeks doing it Friday, Saturdays. That makes zero sense. I'm not going to make any money off this thing. All the money's going to be spent on gas. I'm going to profit like $200. And so, I was thinking like, dang it, I don't want to renege. Like, I don't want to send him an email or contact and be like, I can't do it for $1,200 because that just wasn't in my nature to renege. But then I thought about it. I was like, nah, because the entire time I'm going to be there, I'm going to be pissed off. Like, damn it, they're basically getting this thing for free. So I just called him. I said, look, man, so I'm sorry about this, but I can't do it for $1,200. I just kind of did the math over again. When I said over again, I really didn't do the math to begin with. I was just like, $1,200, that's a lot of money. And so, I was like, I kind of did the math over again, and $1,200, I mean, it's not a lot because, and I described it like, here's how much I'm going to spend in gas on it. So by the time I'm done, it's going to be like zero profit. If anything, I may go into the negative, right? And he was like, oh yeah, I understand. And so he knew that I undercharged to begin with. And so I don't remember what I charged after that, but I definitely charged way more after that, right? It's just really important that you do not agree to anything that you don't want to agree with. This is one of the reasons it blows my mind when speakers tell me, they're like, oh, I charge $5,000 for the gig, but the bureau made $20,000 for the gig. They got $15,000 and only gave me $5,000. I'm like, dude, why'd you only ask for $5,000 then? It's your fault. You should have asked for more. It's not their fault that they asked for more. It is your fault that you didn't ask for more. And so you simply have to think, if you're pissed off that someone made more than you, why didn't you ask for more? And so just don't agree to things you don't want to agree to. Whether you're in the beginning phases, the end phase of your speaking career, whatever it is, just don't agree to things you don't want to agree to. So just keep that in mind. Ultimately, like I said, your speaker contract, there's nothing that difficult about it. It's like in the beginning, for those of you who hopped on late, in the beginning I say you don't want to make it long, you don't want to make it difficult. All your speaker contract really says is just the information about the event. You're going to record the event. It says the basics in terms of here's what you need. You just need like a pot of water. You need a PowerPoint screen, whatever it is you need. If you need anything, do not make it difficult. Your ass does not need a freaking contract writer. You are not Mariah Carey. You're not Leonardo DiCaprio. You do not need a freaking contract writer. Your ass is not that important. You just simply say, here's what I need, and all that is in probably one paragraph. Like you're not that important. You don't need freaking red gummy bears and a milkshake. You don't need all that stuff. So that's pretty much all it is when it comes down to your speaker contracts. So let's see if there were any questions. All right, let's see. So Wani said, what is your comeback when you get the fee is out of an event's budget? I was asked, as I said, that I have a single fee structure, $7,500 plus hotel, plus flight and hotel. I explained by a single fee structure, that means whether I speak for 20 minutes, 60 minutes, or 3 hours or a full day, my fee is, dang, you need to change that, man. You shouldn't be charging $7,500 for 20 or 3 hours or a full day. You need to change that for one. But that's actually something I'm going to talk about tomorrow, to be honest, in terms of quoting your fees. So ask me that question tomorrow. We're going to talk about quoting your fees tomorrow. But yeah, hands down, you better be charging differently if you're going to do a 30-minute presentation versus a full day. I get the mindset behind that is you probably heard the advice of, get people to pay for value, that sort of thing, but, it's wrong. So, all right, let's see. You sound like Mariah on the high note. Yeah. Mariah's got nothing on me. I trained her. Let's see. Sounds good to me. Business or first class. Yep. All right. See, I got my balance 10 to 5 days before the event. All right. So you said, I did a speech for a Fortune 10 company and the vendor approval process took 30 to 60 days to get paid. How do you handle that? So like, once again, this depends on where you are in your speaking, career, your business. I've just gotten to a point where if they don't do it my way, there is no way. It's like my way or the highway, literally. It's like, here's how it is, 50% now, 50% before I arrive type thing, or 100% up front. I literally never let them give me the money afterwards. The only exception would be if it was literally someone I knew. Like literally someone I knew. Like if it's freaking my mom's like, Mom, like Benji, I'm doing an event. Can you do it for free? Hell no, Mom, you gotta pay me $30,000, right? So the only time is if is if I literally know someone, and even then they know not to even ask that of me. And so that's the thing. Like I just don't put myself in that position. Like literally don't. All right. And then in the beginning though, you have to. It's one of those things where in the beginning, if they say, like our vendor approval process, you need insurance, you need if they say all that stuff, then you essentially have to do it. I remember I had to do the same thing in the beginning, but eventually you just get to a point where it's like, I don't literally need it. And so, that's kind of what I did. But I would literally never let anybody keep my money. I hands down won't. It's the reason for that is because several times I've been canceled on. And I was like, like it pissed me the hell off. Like literally everything seemed good to go. Like, oh yeah, we got you I remember the first time it happened, I was destroyed. I was like, I wanted to cry. It was like the gig. It seemed like it was so sealed to where they saw me present. And this was just when I was performing, by the way. They saw me present, and then it was a local one, so they were like, all right, can you actually come to the office? And then I just want you to show everybody, do 10 minutes, and all we're planning the presentation, so come right before we plan. They're going to see it and all that. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I come, I do a 10-minute presentation. Literally, as I went there, they had the PowerPoint in terms of how they were planning the event, the theme, and all that sort of stuff. So I go there, I do the presentation. They're oh my goodness, they're wowed and everything, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, done deal, right? So I send them the contract, they send it back, signed and everything. I didn't get a deposit yet, nothing. They just sent it back. I'm like, but still, I'm like, oh, it's a done deal. I've talked with this guy for a long time. He was a regular at the restaurant. So I'm like, all right, done deal, right? Then all of a sudden, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go. I'm like, what the hell? And then he's like, oh man, sorry. They kind of went with this other guy because he was a lot cheaper. I was like, I was pissed. I was like, what the hell? Like it was so close to being a done deal. I got the contract back and everything. And then all of a sudden they just went with someone else because he was like not even half cheaper. He was like freaking 3/4 cheaper than what I was, right? It was like a ridiculously, it was like, let's say I was charging $5,000. He charged like $800. It was something stupid, like a huge difference. And, then I found out after the event, the guy was like, yeah, he kind of sucked. No one was really paying attention to him. I was like, see? And then when they hired me next year, I charged like $20,000. I charged like something stupid because I was like, see, that's what you guys get. And so, but honestly, I don't let anyone not pay me because what's going to happen is they're not invested. So they're more likely to cancel. It doesn't matter how much they're going to say, no, we're good to go. They're more likely to cancel. You don't want to get into the habit of that. So I don't let anybody keep my money. Speaker Bureau, whoever, nobody's keeping my money. You're paying freaking at least 50% deposit now. In order for me to even put you on the schedule, you need to pay a deposit. You will not talk to me unless you pay a deposit. I will not put you on a schedule unless you pay a deposit. It's just that way. I did that as soon as I possibly could, right? So even when I wasn't getting a lot of gigs, I still would do that because after it happened a couple times where people would cancel, they'd send the contract, they signed the contract, I wouldn't get the money, then they cancel, and I'm not going to sue them. I'm stupid as freaking sue. So it's like, at that point, I was like, you know what? Forget it. It's just not worth my time. Like you get all excited and everything, and then bam, you're just like, what the hell? And so it just wasn't worth it. So I don't care who it is. I'm just like, nope. All right. So let's see. He said, I'm still waiting to get my first events. How do I set them up? David, there's a lot to that question. Honestly, you probably just want to join the Speak Pro Academy. The steps are you get your website set up, make it look bomb as all hell, get your CRM set up with the lead score, the sales cadence, the custom descriptions inside of your CRM, and then you start learning how to do cold emailing. Cold email is the process where you simply send out the cold emails. You got to sound in demand. You're contacting the right, man, there's a lot. Go to the previous, I think it was maybe 4 videos ago where it said the entire process for getting booked or something like that. I think that's the headline. And watch that video. It's going to show you the entire process. All right, let's see. You said you should have had it in your contract to get 50% up front, then the balance 15 days before. Okay. You said how do events typically pay a speaker? So the way events typically pay is really different ways. Ultimately, I don't really care how they pay. Nowadays, what I do is I do actually do the credit card one. So I actually send them, we use like this shopping cart thing. And so I actually create a shopping cart where it's, a page just for them. So it says like their logo name or just their name. And then it says the actual amount. They enter the credit card information. So I tell them they can either do that or send a check. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so that's pretty much either way. And by the way, when it comes to, let's say they enter their credit card information, it will take a percentage off, right? So whenever anyone pays with a credit card, the credit card processing fee is however much, 3%, whatever. I do not add that 3% onto the fee. Like, stop being cheap. Like, you got to stop being cheap. You got to accept this punch as a freaking business owner. Your ass is not going to put that 3% on them. You take that 3%. If you're charging 20 grand, so what? You pay 3% of 20 grand. So what? And so if you, on the other hand, say you got to pay the 3%, think about how it makes them feel. Think about when people have done that to you. You've gone to some store and they're like, oh, we got to charge you 3% for your credit card or your debit card or whatever. In your mind, you're like, I'm never coming here again. Like, you're like, oh, these mofos, right? So that it's just a couple cents. Like you're paying $10 and then really you're just paying a couple cents extra. But in your mind, you're like, dude, why didn't you just take the fee, right? And so that, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So that's why I don't do that. Like when anyone pays with a credit card, I literally just say, here's how much it is, 20 grand. I don't care if it takes X amount off that, 3% off of it. I just don't care. All right. So all right, we got that. So you said, I've been doing this for a long time, but large corporations are difficult. So large corporations are only difficult because you're allowing them to be difficult. So I've dealt with damn near all the big corporations. None of them are difficult because I tell them, here's my process. They will try to tell you, here's how we work, and I will tell them, here's how I work. It's almost like a game of chicken. Like literally happens almost every time. I don't want to name names, but every single company that I would name, you would know who they are. They've all pretty much tried that thing on me. Here's how our process works. You got to be this, a vendor, and then all. I'm like, okay, I still need, like literally, that's literally what I do. I'm like, okay, I still need a 50%. That's just what I do, right? And so it doesn't really matter. You're just allowing them to do that to you. You just stop allowing them to do that to you. And the only way to get to that point is when you're ready to lose a gig. That's the only way you can get to that point. But I'll tell you right now, look at all the top speakers, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, all these guys. You think they will let someone keep their money? Like you think they will let anyone what is Walmart, the number one company in the world? If Walmart were to hire Tony Robbins, you think Tony Robbins would be like, okay, yeah, you guys can pay me 30 days afterwards, 6 days after. Sure, why not? Tony Robbins would be like, dude, you can't even talk to my assistant unless you pay us $500,000 deposit. You can't even talk to my assistant unless you pay that much. Like that's so you just got to think, you got to dictate the terms, and that's how you build your business. Otherwise, what happens is you just end up doing things like what I did with the haunted house, where you just regret agreeing to it. Like that's literally what's going to happen to you. All right, So we got that. He said, set your contract requirements. You're dealing with well-known companies. All right. You always get to call the shots. It doesn't matter. You always get to call the shots. Carla, this is why companies are not paying you until after you do the gig. I'm telling you, I've dealt with any company you have spoken for, guarantee I've done business with them. I guarantee you they have all paid me up front because I do not accept anything other than that. You are letting them do that to you. That is why they do it to you. And so just understand, you have to dictate the terms of your business. And so I'm telling you, do that on your next couple gigs. I'm telling you, you'll be like, damn, they actually do give me the money up front. I'm telling you, like literally, I'm telling you. Speakers, they just don't dictate. They let other people dictate for them. You guys have to start dictating. You got to understand, this is your business. You tell people how you run your business. All right, So let's see. We got that. Would anybody be happy to help me get some gigs? All right. David, go watch the video where I said we'll book gigs for you. All right, let's see. The contract's in the Speak Pro. Yeah, so Greg, contract, go to the resources section in the Speak Pro Academy. You'll see the contract there. Let's see. All right. What is a CRM? Google it. Let's see. Bill said, I deal with colleges and universities that will pay the full fee at the end of my talk. Getting paid at the end of my talk works for me. I used to do half up front. but I was waiting a month until I got the other half. Yeah. So like, once again, the only reason you wait is because you allow them to do it. That is literally the only reason. Literally in the beginning, I did the same thing, like the exact same thing. I would allow people to dictate everything. Like almost, I would say, 50% deposit. And if they respond in any other way, like, I'm sorry, the way we work is, I would be like, okay, fine. And then nowadays I say, the way we work is though, I say, okay, I understand. Unfortunately, we can't do anything unless, that's literally what I tell them. I'm like, look, I understand that's how you guys work, but unfortunately, we can't do anything unless, that's literally what I tell them. I literally do not let them dictate anything, like literally nothing. I'm just like, here's how we work. Stop answering so fast. All right. Let's see. The contract is in the Speak Pro. Yep. All right. So let's see. Okay. I'll tune in tomorrow for quoting the fees. Yes. Yes. So Wani, ask that question tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be about the quoting the fees and stuff. She said, yes, it went to a single fee system to avoid the whole nickel and diamond. All right. Cool. Yeah. So, that's what I really want to stress in terms of, you guys need to start dictating more. A lot of people, a lot of speakers, or well, not speakers, just people in general, they get pissed off at the other person because the way the deal was dealt or the way the deal happened. There's no way you can get pissed off at another person when you are the one dictating. And this is why I find the shutdown thing, the government shutdown, to be very interesting because Trump is not the type who's like, I'm going to back down from this wall. Like, he's just not that type, right? So I'm like, how is this going to turn out? Because Trump, he's not used to other people saying, here's what we want you to do. He's like, here's what I'm going to do, right? That's what he does. That's why he's gotten so much, right? So that's why I'm curious. I'm like, how's this thing going to end? But that's kind of what you're doing with your business. It's like, you can't be disappointed because you're just saying, here's how I work. If you're not willing to do that, it's basically my way or the highway type thing. The only way you can get to that point is when you don't need their money. That's the only way you can get to that point. I don't care if the gig is $50,000. I don't care if it's $100,000, to be honest. Literally, if someone says we won't pay you until after, I'll literally say, no, that's not how it works. Literally. If it's $1 million, then I'll be like, okay, maybe. But in most cases, no, 100% of the case, I'm like, nah, I don't work that way. All right. Let's see. Matt said, I've always gotten 50% up front when I was doing the school shows, except no other way. Yeah. And the colleges are the ones that really do it in terms of, they're like, we'll pay you guys afterwards. And so all you really do, with like colleges, you basically tell them like, why don't you start the process now? Because they say like, it takes 30 days or whatever. And it does take the time to get it. So you just say, well, how about you start the process now? So 30 days from now, I'll have the 50% deposit. So that's kind of what you're doing because it does take them time, especially colleges. It does take them time. But once again, I tell everybody, you are not in my calendar unless I have a deposit. And if someone asks me for that date, I will tell you, hey, someone asked me for this date. They're willing to send the deposit. If I don't get a deposit from you within 24 hours, I have to give it to them. And that's literally what I do. Like, I tell them 24 hours. I used to say 48, but now I just say 24. And then I tell the other person, I say like, all right, we have another person who's interested in the same date, but they haven't sent the deposit. So if they don't send the deposit by, what is today? So like the 22nd, I'll say like, if they don't send the deposit by the 25th, then you guys are good to go, right? And that's what I do with that. That's all you're really doing. So let's see. Ari said, would you add a video testimonial to your pitch if the person you are pitching came through the person who did the testimonial? Wait, would you add a video testimonial to your pitch if the person you are pitching came through? No, I never pitched through a video testimonial. Is that what you're talking about, Ari? Like you just record a video of you pitching to them? Is that what you're talking about? Wait, would you add a video testimonial to your pitch? Okay. If the person, okay. No, I know what you're talking about. All right. Yeah. So like, let's say Bill Gates recommended me. Like, let's say I got a video testimony of Bill Gates and then Bill Gates is like, hey, contact Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's interested in bringing you in. Like, okay, cool. And so I would actually include the testimony of Bill Gates. I'd be like, hey, Warren, your buddy, Bill told me to message you because he knows that I'm the greatest speaker in the world. here's a testimonial bill, like saying I'm the greatest speaker in the world. And so I would do that. That's actually what I do all the time. So like I even do that even if they don't know the person directly. So when I contact real estate brokers, I send them like Keller Williams and Remax. I send them testimonials from them, people that they know. When I contact internet marketing events, I send them testimonials from Ryan Dice and his crew because they know who he is. And so that's what I do when I send testimonials. All right. So you said, what's better, set up a business LLC in your own name or create a company name? That's technically up to you. Something like that. Honestly, what I would do is I would talk with a tax attorney, because even right now I'm talking with a friend, and a friend, he's not a tax attorney, but he knows a lot about taxes. And he's like, set up another LLC, because I was talking about commercial real estate, right? And I was like, should I set up like a new LLC for commercial real estate? He's like, oh, set stuff up in Wyoming, because Wyoming has this and all. So he's like telling me why to set it up in Wyoming and all that, right? And so if you talk with a tax attorney, they can tell you all the details about how to use LLC and all that. So, but ultimately, just understand, you can set up an LLC. If you set up an LLC in your name and then one day you're like, oh, I want to set it up in a different name, you can still do that too. So just remember that. But there's all sorts of smart mofos out there who set up LLCs for one reason, then they use it for a tax reason and do S corp stuff. I mean, it's freaking crazy. Like it's absolutely like genius, to be honest. Let's see. Karen said, what if the subject matter is so specific in a market that is already flooded with speakers who present on the same? I'm passionate and an expert on the subject, so switching topics is not an option. I didn't say switch topics. Thoughts on getting paid in advance and getting paid more? Well, I never said switch topics. So you said, what if the subject matter is so specific? So if your subject matter is so specific, you're in the wrong market to begin with, just because it's too specific. So imagine if, I don't know. Imagine if my topic is the aperture remote control red button on the remote control. Like imagine I'd become an expert on what color red you need to have on here. Should this button be on the lower left? Should it be on the lower right? Should it be in the middle? I've become an expert on this thing. The fact that I'm an expert on such a small topic is almost guaranteed for my business to fail, because I don't have enough customers. If you are in a position where you absolutely have to accept because you just don't have enough customers, you're in a bad market. I found this out when I was training magicians how to get business. Because in the beginning, remember, I started out as a restaurant magician. I was like, all right, let me do some restaurant magic. Bam. I was doing it for, it was over 10 years. Then I came out with a book on restaurant magic. I'm like, all right, I'm going to teach magicians how to do this business stuff, right? I realized after a little bit, this is a horrible market because it's too small. And because it was too small, I wasn't making a lot of money with that market. And so that's what happens if you're just in a bad market. You may be an expert on something, but that doesn't mean you should try to sell that thing, because you won't generate any sales. You're just going to struggle 24/7 throughout that thing. If you're in a bad market, you're literally selling something people don't want. And that's one of the reasons why I still haven't come out with more on public speaking skills, because it just seems the market doesn't seem to be what I want it to be. But yeah, just to understand that. So you should never be in a position where you feel like you have to accept a gig because there's no other gigs lined up, to where it's like, I have to speak at this conference because there's no other events anywhere else. If that's the case, you're in a really, really bad market, like beyond bad. I mean, insanely bad, because you're so desperate on one gig or on just one conference or whatever. But yeah, in terms of getting paid in advance, just do what I mentioned before in terms of, you're always getting paid in advance. You just tell them, hey son, you pay me all my money or I'm gonna send the mob your way. So you do that. And then getting paid more. I think I did a whole other video on this, but maybe I'll do another video again in terms of getting paid more. The way you get paid more, by the way, it's not anything you do when you quote your price. To get paid more, it's everything you do before you quote that price. So a perfect example is like dating, right? So if a guy walks up to a girl and he says, hey, what's your phone number? And the girl says, I got a boyfriend, right? She comes with, I got a boyfriend, right? it's not the asking for the phone number that was wrong. It was everything he did before that was wrong. So he didn't like come up, just talk and all that. And she felt good around him. Then he asked for the phone number. He just came up, just asked for the phone number. So she just came up with an excuse. I got a boyfriend, right? And so the same goes with getting paid more. Once you start talking about price, there's nothing you can do to increase your value in their eyes. There's pretty much nothing you can do at that point. It's everything you do before your website, sounding in demand, all that sort of stuff, everything you do before you essentially quote the price. Once you quote the price, they already have in their head, this person is worth $5,000. And if you quote $50,000, they're like, absolutely not. That's what happens inside of their head. So everything that happens before is how you actually increase your price, not when you actually quote. All right, so let's see. It said, so you switch from speaking to public speaking to become, wait, what? You said, so you switch from speaking on public speaking to become, what? Reword that. You said, so you switch from speaking on public speaking to become, and then period, successful speaker, question mark. You tighten your niche. Yeah, reword that. What are you trying to say there? Wani said, I'm an attorney, set it up in a corporation's name other than your name. A lot. You said a lot to go into the comment. Yeah, so message Wani if you're talking about the LLC. The LLC stuff, man, I'll tell you, man, like my friend is smart as all hell when it comes to this LLC taxes and all that stuff. It's really, really genius. All right, so let's see. Yeah, reword that. What did you say? So you switch from speaking on public speaking to become successful. What did you say? On how to become a public speaker. Ask the whole question all over again, Natalie. Ask the whole question from start to finish all over again. I have no idea what you're saying here. Now, let's see if there was any other questions that I missed. See, would you add a video testimony? Got that. All right, yeah, ask the question all over again. I'll wait a few seconds for that to pop up. And then let's see, we got all that. All right, maybe I can dissect this thing again. You said, so you switch from speaking on public speaking to become successful speaker. So you switch from speaking to public. Yeah, it's best if you ask that all over again. All right, let's see. We got that. All right, I'll wait a few seconds. If not, we'll talk tomorrow. So remember, guys, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, we're doing these Facebook Lives. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about quoting your fee. So today we talked about the contract. I probably should have switched them. I probably should have talked about quoting your fee today and tomorrow the contract, because that's the order of the pipeline. By the way, the pipeline, remember, it's incoming, questions, quote, contract, closed. So that's the pipeline. All right, let's see. All right, here's the question. She said, instead of teaching on public speaking in general, you niche down to teaching on how to become a successful speaker. Oh, okay. So what I was saying in terms of the public speaking thing is just that the reason I haven't come out with training on how to do public speaking is mostly because the market itself isn't really a great market. So when you look at markets, what you're looking for is, how bad do people need to have this problem solved? So it's public speaking. It's one of those where most people, they don't need that problem solved in such a bad way where they Google the thing. So if they're Googling public speaking, they're typing in public speaking tips and all that sort of stuff. But it's not like one of those things like, I don't have any money. Oh my, how do I pay my rent? So it's not like that type of bad. They're just like, I just want to get better at speaking, right? So it's not, they're not like frustrated in any sort of way. It's just one of those things where, yeah, it'd be cool to be better at public speaking. So that's the problem that I've always had with that market, which is why we haven't really come out with stuff on that market. So you said, and you book your flight yourself. Oh, good question. I do not book the flight. I'd never invoice them anything. So I don't book the flight. I don't invoice them anything. It's just extra work that I don't want to do. So they always book the flight. If they tell me to book the flight, like that does happen sometimes, and I will agree to it. But if they tell me to do it, I will always increase the price by at least $1,000, a minimum of $1,000. The reason is because it bothers, like, it's just wasting my time. I'm just like, dude, no, you guys do that, right? So if they tell me to book the flight, I almost always will charge them double, triple, quadruple more than what would have happened if they just did it themselves, because it's wasting my time. And so that's what happens every single time. I never invoice for anything. It's just always in the conversation. Remember, when I quote, I say it's $20,000 plus flight and hotel and transportation to and from the airport. They can come back and say, actually, we have the hotel already, but we need you to book the flight. And at that point, I'll say, okay, no problem. It's now going to cost X amount. And I just charge extra every single time, like every single time. So let's see. Do you think that is a good niche? Oh, you said I teach public speaking specifically when it comes to going live. I think it's a hard niche. So it's not that it's a bad niche. I think it's harder to get people to buy because it's not something where they're like really frustrated in terms of buying. So the way you want to look at markets is you want to look at how frustrated is a person with that specific problem. So when people do live, like people are doing, let's say, a live video like this, right? Most people, they're not frustrated to the point where they're going to go buy a course on it. If they buy a course, they're buying a course in terms of how to make money or something like that, right? They're not frustrated to the point where they're just thinking, how do I learn how to present better? Is one of those things in the back of their mind. They're like, I wish I could do it, but they're not thinking, how do I learn to present better? It's not that insane amount of frustration level. And so on top of that, what I found out is that people do not think they're bad. All right, so there's a couple different people with public speaking. There's the people who absolutely know they're bad with public speaking. They're terrified of speaking on stage. Like the complete beginners, they're like, I don't even know what to say. Camera turns on, I don't know what to say. I step on a stage, I'm freaking sweating bullets, right? And so these are people who are terrified of it, right? Those are the people that if they're in a position, like let's say an executive position, and they have to do it, then yeah, they tend to buy. Then there's like the middle people. These are speakers who are horrible, not speakers. These are just people who are horrible at speaking. They do speak. Let's say they're in front of a crowd or doing a live, but they don't know they're bad. Like they don't know how bad they are when they speak. And because they don't know, they don't search for how to become better. That's like 80% of the market. Then there's the speakers who know they're good or they know they're okay and they want to get better because they want to sell from the stage. They want to use their speaking skills to sell stuff. That is the good market. That is the market that's going to make you a lot of money. Whereas the speakers who want to know how do you sell from the stage, how do you sell on webinars, how do you basically present in a way where it sells, it makes money. That's a good market for public speaking. But there's the beginner market, the beginners where they're terrified. Those are the people I don't want to deal with. Then there's the middle market where these people, they need it. There's a lot of them that need it. They just don't know it. Then there's the people who are already really good. They just want to sell from the stage and everything. These are the people who I've studied all that, but it's not at the level of mastery that I have with all the other things, which is why I haven't taught this yet. Because I'm like, no, you guys can learn that stuff from somebody else. There's other people who are way better at selling from stage than me, right? So I haven't really taught that. I've studied it, but I haven't really taught it, right? So that's what you think in terms of the markets, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're just going to struggle to sell what it is you're selling. And so, yeah, so cool. Glad it makes sense. All right, so let's see. You said, so you tell them how much time you need to be there ahead of time. Yeah. So that's exactly what I do. So I tell them in terms of, I tell them the flight to book. So I tell them, let's say the flight is on the 22nd. I say I need to arrive there on at least by the 21st, right? So I tell them when I need to arrive and when I need to go. So I always tell them that type of information. But by the way, I do want to mention that I tell them that after everything, after I get the money, like all the details of the event, like the flight and all that stuff, I discuss that after I get the deposit. My goal in the beginning is just get the money. That's the goal. After I get the money, then we talk about the details of like which flight and all that sort of stuff. I do want to mention, I do tell them never book me on Spirit. Now I'm going to start saying Spirit Airlines and Allegiant Airlines. But I do tell them every single time, you can book me on any flight as long as it's not Spirit and it's not Allegiant, because they're horrible airlines. So please don't sue me, Spirit and Allegiant. But honestly, that's what I say. And then when it's international, if it's a long flight, I will tell them you have to book me business class or first class. That is what I say every single time. All right, so we are good to go for today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about quoting your fee. I probably should have switched it. Would have made more sense. But tomorrow we're going to talk about quoting your fee. So Wani, make sure you ask that question tomorrow. Remember, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks everybody for showing up. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody.